One of the most common questions that singers have when they first start taking singing lessons or start practicing with more intent relates to what they should expect in terms of progress. Obviously, every student of voice is unique. Every student starts from a different place in terms of their natural abilities or previous training, and students progress at different paces depending on how quickly they grasp the concepts being taught to them and on the facility with which they apply those new concepts. We can't compare ourselves to others, and we can't necessarily expect the same results within the same time frame. You know those infomercials for weight loss and hair gain? In very fine print at the bottom of the television screen, there's always a little disclaimer stating that the results may vary or these results are not typical. Well, progress in singing is a little bit like that too. Singing teachers can't guarantee results that will happen at a given pace, and certainly not instant results, because there are far too many variables that are completely out of their control. Even the best of singing teachers is at the mercy of the student's current vocal habits, capabilities, intelligence, determination, commitment to practicing regularly, and so forth. Every student walks in with a guitar case full of these types of variables that need to be unpacked over time. Now, with that said, I do earnestly believe that everyone can improve their singing abilities through lessons. Everyone can get better. They're just going to improve at different tempos. And realistically, they're not all going to reach the same goals or the same levels. So let's talk about voice training under the guidance of a qualified singing teacher. I believe that you should experience a difference after just one lesson with a new teacher. Whether that's improvement in some area or aspect of your technique, even if only in the tiniest of ways, or a new perspective on singing or viewing your voice, or gaining a new insight into what's been holding you back technically or causing you discomfort, pain, or repeated injury, that is a sort of aha moment in which the pieces of the puzzle just sort of start to come together for you and everything starts to make just a little bit more sense. If the teacher is skilled at diagnosing technical faults, then he or she should be able to pinpoint the student's immediate training needs and provide that student with some sort of game plan going forward. Oftentimes, as I'm first observing and hearing a new student sing, we're able to tweak a few things right away. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the student is going to adopt these changes, graft them into his or her technique, and make them habitual from that first lesson on. It takes time to integrate changes into our working technique. Although the majority of fixes in technique training are accomplished over the long term and involve a systematic overhauling of the singer's technical approach in certain areas, there are also some quick fixes or tweaks, minor adjustments that can be made that can help the singer feel more vocal freedom or experience an improvement in his or her sound right away. Instant relief, instant improvement. You should walk away from a first lesson feeling hopeful about your progress and excited to start putting into practice what you've learned so far. There are a couple common aspects of progress that might surprise and frustrate you. The first is that many singers experience plateaus from time to time in which their progress just seems to sort of stop or stall for a while. It's not from a lack of effort or even inconsistent daily practice or ineffective teaching or poor guidance from teachers. It's just the non-linear nature of learning a new physiological coordination. But this is often the time when students either start to seriously question whether or not they have any real potential to make it as singers, or they start questioning the competence of the teacher rather than understanding and trusting the process. And they become studio hoppers, hopping from one voice studio to the next and then to the next, but never really sticking it out long enough to get past that hump. Now, don't misunderstand me here. If it's not working with a particular teacher, it's not working. Sometimes you just know early on that a teacher isn't a good fit or isn't as qualified as he or she had seemed on paper. And I'm not saying that out of sheer loyalty, you should stick it out with a bad singing teacher or someone whose inflexible teaching style clashes with your own learning style. But you should give it adequate time before making that determination and examine your progress so far before jumping to conclusions, before firing your singing teacher and writing yourself off as perpetually hopeless. If you've been progressing fairly steadily up until this most recent plateau, then you're probably on the right track. You just need to keep at it and wait until you get to that next leg of the climb that will ultimately take you to the summit. But also examine things and see if there's an underlying reason why your progress has stalled. Are you doing something differently? Have you reverted to old, ineffective habits? Is your technique working with or against your body's natural design? Are there underlying medical concerns? The second surprising and frustrating aspect of your progress is that sometimes early on in training, the singer may experience a rather disconcerting 2 steps forward and 1 step back kind of pattern. This is something that I experienced. I actually went through a period in which I swear my voice sounded worse than before I had started taking singing lessons. It wasn't that I was actually getting worse, it's that I was attempting to apply a new technical approach to my singing, and my voice was just trying to figure it all out. So for a period of time, a few months, my technique was a mélange of the old and the new. If the teacher takes a systematic rather than a fast food drive-through approach, the new techniques will gradually come to replace the old ones, but this transition isn't always smooth and seamless. Remember though that when progress seems to be happening 2 steps forward and 1 step back, you're still moving forward. You're still further ahead than when you started. Remember, slow and steady wins the race. And record your singing every so often so that you can go back and compare and begin to see and hear that progress for yourself. Oftentimes we forget where we started from. And check out my video on tracking progress in singing after this one for more advice. There are a few other points that I'd like to make before signing off. The first is, be prepared to fall. A big part of learning to sing entails trial and error. There is a lot of falling down and getting back up again that takes place, so expect it. It's just like learning any other skill. Don't expect to get it immediately and then be tempted to quit when you don't. Stick it out. Be comfortable with sucking, at least for a while. This is especially hard for those of us who are perfectionists and get really down on ourselves, but when we're learning a new skill, we have to be comfortable with being a work in progress, being unfinished, and again, we have to trust the process. Don't be afraid to take a break. If you find yourself getting really frustrated and you're getting really down on yourself and your mind just isn't in the right place, it's okay to take a break, to walk away and to come back later. Oftentimes when we come back from breaks, even extended ones, all of a sudden something clicks. Sometimes it's just because our minds need a bit of a reset. Now, adopt a positive mindset. Our minds can greatly influence our ability to sing well, so we need to adopt a positive mindset that's going to get us saying to ourselves, I can do this, I can improve, I can reach my singing goals.
I think I can. I think I can. I think I can.
Now, change is a prerequisite for progress. In other words, you need to be willing to do things in a different way from how you've been doing them, or else you're just going to be treading water. Put in the time. Don't expect to progress if you're not putting in the time necessary to improve. Some people have more free time for practicing than others, and some people can afford regular weekly lessons to get that discipline, while others have to teach themselves and can only consult with a singing teacher sporadically. Do what you can with what you've got, but adjust your expectations of your progress accordingly. And finally, your technical training needs to be based on the natural and optimal function of the vocal apparatus. If the technique that you're learning is not, you can't expect to progress. It takes time to train the singing voice. There are no real shortcuts, but just as some people can run faster than others, some singers reach their training goals sooner than others. For nearly everyone, voice training should be viewed more as a marathon than as a sprint. Now, this doesn't mean that you should expect to be taking lessons for the rest of your life, but don't have unrealistic expectations that you're going to be able to go from barely holding a tune to being on the radio in 3 months' time. It just doesn't work like that. And if you were to talk to most singers, they would likely tell you that their vocal success was a long process that involved a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So take out the Band-Aids, the 80s aerobic style headbands and tissues, you're gonna need them. Anything that's worthwhile in this life involves work. So I know some of you have requested a video on this topic, and I hope that I've answered all your questions here today. If not, please leave them in the comments section below, or email me at karen@singwise.com, or message me on the SingWise Facebook page, and I'll be sure to make a follow-up video for you if need be. Keep plugging away at it, get some proper guidance, subscribe to this channel, and you'll see results.